So I really think we could be starting to see what might be the start of a grassroots movement that could rise up and just topple this Trump regime. And I'm not just talking about your crunchy resistance libs. I'm talking about people who are living in deep red districts who are looking around and they do not like what they see. And Media Matters recently put together a piece where they have all of these different people calling into their favorite right-wing media hosts. And it is just fascinating to listen to them pushing back against all the things that this Trump administration is doing. And the really interesting part about all of this is that right-wing media radio has been the breeding ground for these people to turn their ire against the federal government, against the administrative state, against this, against that. They have bred so much hate against our federal government in general. And now you have the people who listen to these shows on a regular basis, and they are calling in to their favorite hosts, and they are saying, whoa, I didn't know this stuff was going to come from me. So let's go ahead and take a listen to some of these different call-ins. And this is going to be a little bit different because these are audio clips, and so I've done my best to try to, get an image that I can put on screen while this audio is playing. So it will be a little bit different, so just pardon that. But let's go ahead and take a listen to this first clip where you've got somebody calling into Sean Hannity's radio show, and they're talking about all the veterans that are losing their jobs right now. And if you do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
But, hey, awesome stuff that DOGE is doing with Elon Musk, and we sure appreciate it out here is what kind of farmers and taxpayers and all that good stuff. But one thing I'm concerned about, Sean, a little bit, and I'm concerned the liberal media might run with this, is one of our tenants just recently got laid off from the USDA, and he's disabled vet, multiple deployments overseas, and the guy is without a job now, and I'm just afraid that stuff like this is going to get out there. And I know you got a soft spot for military and police and EMS and all those guys, and just a little concerning that we don't let these guys fall off the wagon here and get neglected because they've done so much for our country.
Look, I don't like to see anybody in a position where they're going to lose their job. In the case of USAID, and obviously your friend, I'm sure, is not a part of this, but there was, tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars just thrown down the drain and stolen from the American people and our children and grandchildren. It's just unfortunate he worked for them. With that said, there are going to be a lot of job openings. A lot of people, for example, retired and took the early retirement and payout. And then there's going to be jobs hopefully created in the energy sector.
So I find this completely interesting because Sean Hannity has been on talk radio for a long time. He has been one of the main purveyors of this hate towards the federal government. But now that it is veterans being affected, you don't really hear him coming out and saying, well, this shouldn't happen to the veterans. It's more like, oh, well, I hate that it's happening to you, but we really had to do what we have to do. I don't think this is going to sit well with anybody who is calling into these shows. You have veterans who have dedicated their lives in many cases to serving this country. And now you have this DOGE agency going around and just indiscriminately firing people who have made it their life work to serve others and to serve this country. And they're just getting wiped out, their livelihoods destroyed. And instead of consoling this person and maybe offering up some advice or whatever it might be from Sean Hannity, he says, well, that really sucks, but there was just all this waste, fraud, and abuse, and we just had to get it out of there. And that is just a load of crap. We've talked about this time and time again. They have not provided a shred of evidence that there is substantive waste, fraud, and abuse all over the place. What we are seeing is Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they are gutting the government from the inside out so they can line their own pockets. This has nothing to do with making the government more efficient. In many cases, the way that they are going about things is like the least efficient way to do it. And now we're learning that all of these different contracts that they're canceling, they're not even saving the American people any money because these contracts have already been fulfilled. They've already been paid out. And it's not like they're ongoing. So it's a complete disaster. But let's go ahead and move on to this next call from the Chris Stigall show. I hadn't heard of this talk show host before. I think he might be fairly new, but he is reading off an email that was sent in to him, and they're talking about how all the federal workers are just being mistreated right now.
You have so much promise, yet it's difficult to get beyond your disrespect and disregard for federal employees. Now, Kim, I'm calling her, is not the only one of these that I got on both X and an email. But Kim said, I am an attorney, and I believe that ensuring the federal law is correctly and consistently interpreted and applied is a high service to our nation. From our new Attorney General Pam Bondi to every attorney across every department, this is what we must strive for, or the rule of law is meaningless. When I went to law school, we were encouraged to offer part of our career to public service. Working for the government was a major part of public service options. So, I will strive for the highest ideals in serving the public and upholding U.S. law. I have always had a strong work ethic, and my current and prior federal government positions have been no exception. Kim, and you know who you are if you sent that email to me. Let me say again, and I actually responded to this person, and I said, if you are listening to this show with regularity, we've been at it about a month, then you should know something about me. And it is, if you're listening to this show, odds are you're probably not one of the people most of the American taxpayers have trouble with, because you're conscientious and you're informed and you work hard. And if you're up at this hour, I guarantee you probably do. So I want to start by saying I am not going to war with every person that works in the federal government. And I don't believe Elon or Trump is going to war with every person that works in the federal government. But folks, I'm going to talk to you like an adult here for a minute. Grow up. Grow up. If you work for the federal government, you need to grow up, respectfully. And if
What an asshole, right? I mean, the person who emailed in, the email he was reading, was talking about how we need to follow federal law and how it is so important to keep an ordered society. Because if the laws are just written down on a piece of paper and nobody's following them, then what kind of society do we really have? And the Trump administration has shown us that they are willing to defy court orders. They are willing to try to skirt around the rules and the norms and our laws. And this person is rightfully calling that out, saying that even though we might want to find different ways for the government to be efficient, this is not the way to go about it. I mean, these guys are breaking laws left and right. The DOGE committee, or whatever the hell you want to call it, is not even a real agency. This was something that Trump spun out of the air during his inauguration or soon before his inauguration. Normally, these agencies are established by Congress, and the people who lead them need to be sworn in by Congress, because we want our federal workers to be accountable to that process, to the American people. But the Trump administration is not doing any of that. Elon Musk and his band of muskrats are running around the federal government and gutting it indiscriminately, treating workers just like absolute crap, sending them emails, prove to me that you deserve to stay. And I'll say it again, many of these Fed workers show up to work every day and they do the right thing. They try to help the American people, and that is why they signed up for this job. But the right-wing media, or right-wing radio and other media sources on the right, they have been demonizing everything within the government for years. And I guess at least this Chris Stigall was honest and said, oh, well, you need to grow up. because these people want to see what Trump is currently doing, whether it is breaking the law or not. I would argue that most of these people are fascists. They wouldn't claim as such, but if you were to describe this ideology and you were to say that Trump was at the top of that hierarchy, you would most likely get them to agree with you. Let's move on to this next clip. This is the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. And this woman, I believe, calls in, and she's talking about Trump's lies with Ukraine.
But this comment about Zelensky being a dictator is just not correct. The Constitution in Ukraine actually does not allow for elections during wartime. His popularity in Ukraine is actually above 50%. And
so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Linda. I appreciate you calling in. How should it end?
So I agree with Trump that it needs to end. I mean, the country is devastated. My daughter's orphanage has been bombed. Like, why are they bombing orphanages? Putin is such an evil, evil person. And obviously we're all very upset about the war in our family. So I agree that it needs to end. I agree with Trump. Probably Ukraine is going to have to concede some land, maybe creep 214. I'm hoping they can get back the land they've taken in the last 3 years. I think Russia's not going to give up Crimea for sure. They may have to say goodbye to Donbass. I agree for negotiated settlement. I mean, I don't like it, but it is what it is. But I don't know if it's productive for him to exclude Zelensky from talks. And it's definitely not productive to say that he should have stopped the war when Putin literally gave Zelensky no choice. He invaded. The only option they had was to abdicate and have no Ukraine, have no country, have no language, have no culture. They were going to
Linda, thank you very much for. Yeah, we're sorry, we're at the end of the hour here. Appreciate you calling in. Thank you for sharing your perspective on it. Just in response to some of the points you've raised, I would say, Trump's only been in office for a month, and it seems like it's finally realistic because you want the war to end too, as we all do. It's realistic that may happen imminently. So, as they say, let the man cook.
As they say, let the man cook. These people are not happy. And especially when it comes to the whole Ukraine ordeal, I don't think there are many conservatives that, don't adhere to the MAGA ideology that are down with what Trump is doing here. Aligning yourself with Russia and making Ukraine out to be the bad guy and saying that Zelensky is the one who is the dictator is absolutely insane. It is just a complete reversal of American foreign policy to align ourselves with Russia. And then to go on to spew Russian talking points like, well, Zelensky's a dictator because he's not holding elections and yada, yada, yada. These people are smarter than that. They know what's going on here. Putin is the bad guy. And Donald Trump is now aligning us with them. And I don't think these people are down with it. And I think it's really interesting that this host just says, oh, well, just let the man cook. He's a master negotiator. We don't really know what the end game is, really. These people are pathetic. And it's the people who are calling into these shows that are going to rise up and fight back against this Trump administration. And that these right-wing radio hosts are not providing any substantive feedback to these people's grievances, I think is a huge, huge mistake, and it's something that we on the left should definitely capitalize on. Let's go ahead and look at this one last clip of somebody calling into Brian Kilmeade, and they're talking about how DOGE is not really being that efficient, and are we just, is Trump just trying to bribe us, basically?
Yeah, what's on my mind is, say if you just take 100,000 people, and I know 65,000 voluntarily withdraw from the jobs. If you take 100,000 people at 50,000, that's about $5 billion, a drop in the bucket. The last tax break that Trump gave was $1.9 trillion, and 65% went to people making over 130,000 a year. That amount is like 1.2 to 1.3 trillion. If you're going to get after the excess spending, you have to go after a military waste and the rich, make the rich pay. Instead, he's trying to offer a $5,000 bribe.
But I would say the top 10% pay 70% of all taxes. You just want to pay them more? That would be almost 60% of their income. I want them putting that money back into the economy.
And the traditional, well, these people need to keep more of their money so they can just put it back into the economy. Even though we know that is not how that works. People on top, people in the top 1% are paying less taxes as a proportion to their income than people on the lower end of the earning ladder. And all we're saying is that those people should maybe be paying, a proportionate amount of their income. And I like the way that this guy just broke out the numbers. And he really is calling out Trump here, saying, this math isn't really mathin'. And when you guys treat this like a business where, your employees are one of your largest expenses, when it comes to the federal government, that is just not the case. That is not the case at all. So going into the federal government and indiscriminately firing a whole bunch of federal employees is not really going to save you a whole lot of money. And instead, you're making the government less efficient because now you don't have the workers to do the things that the government needs to do. So I just found this completely interesting. It's something that we're definitely going to be following because these right-wing radio hosts have just been hammering on the government and making people distrust the government and our institutions. And now that Trump is in here and he's basically staging a coup from within, these people are looking around and they're saying, whoa, hey, I didn't think this stuff was going to come from me. My friends are veterans, and they devoted their life to serving the federal government and the American people. And now they're just getting wiped out. And so we need to be able to capitalize on this. We need to be able to appeal to these people and bring them into our coalition. Because this discontent with this Trump administration, I think, is only going to grow from here. Because as days go on, people are getting more unhappy than we have probably ever seen them in quite some time. So we need to be able to capitalize this, bring them into the big tent, and we need to fight back against this authoritarian takeover. So I will leave it there for now. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that can adequately push back against this right-wing media ecosystem that just shovels shit for Trump every single day. So if you do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe. If you want to see how truly unpopular Donald Trump actually is at this point in his presidency, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. It's pretty surprising. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.